We have our fourth annual virtual summit. It's being presented by CARTS, a licensed professional clinical counseling corporation. And for the past 3 decades, CARTS has brought evidence-based creative arts therapies to hospitals, community organizations throughout Southern California. CARTS has led more than 80,000 group therapy sessions, established a 99.1 delivery rate even through COVID, and watched individuals and organizations blossom into their full potential with their unique, reliable, and compassionate patient care. And now, if you've been all here all week, I normally pass the mic on over to Allison. She gives these beautiful words, but she had a family emergency today. So she sent me a couple words that are from her. So take me out, and I'm going to try and embody Allison for a moment and give you her kind words from Allison. I feel honored to support ADTA's efforts to bring high-quality continuing education to the dance movement therapy community. Over these past few days, we've heard about the amazing innovation our dance movement therapists have put into action by merging DMT with DBT and EMDR. I love seeing these connections emerging within our field of expertise. At CARTS, we're striving to bring a new treatment option into hospital settings. Our team is actively exploring how we can expand the reach of creative arts therapies by developing new pathways and treatment options within the hospital setting. By focusing on the ever-changing dynamics within the field of mental health, CARTS is shifting to meet these new demands and limitations. We're expanding and growing in our efforts to develop new pathways for treatment. If you're interested in being part of our mission to serve hospital-based treatment, please contact me and I'd love to talk with you. And that's from Allison. And so and if anybody wants to join in this moment, send her some healing, loving energy. Thank you, Allison. So it's my pleasure to introduce our amazing ADTA president, Dr. Angela Grayson. I'm going to pass it on. Take it away.
Thank you so much, Molly. Good day, everyone. I am super excited to welcome you to the culminating day of the American Dance Therapy Association's fourth annual virtual spring summit, developing partnerships, dance movement therapy, and interdisciplinary care. If you've been here all week, it's great to see you again. If this is your first time joining us, you are in for a treat. We have had some amazing presenters share their work with us, and we look forward to some great presentations today. I would like to thank, in addition to the lovely tribute that Molly gave and Allison's own words, our presenting sponsor, CARTS, and owner Allison Salter for their generous sponsorship. Allison is one of our very own dedicated and award-winning dance movement therapists who has diligently served and supported the ADTA and the dance movement therapy community. We send Allison our positive energy, good vibes, and just want her to know that we are thinking of her in this hour, in this moment, and on this day, and the days to come. To learn more about CARTS, please visit their website at www.cartsservices.com. It will also be in the chat throughout the day. It's on the website and it's also in the app. So there are multiple ways to get a hold of their website and go check it out. They have some pretty amazing things going on over at CARTS. So we hope you will go and support everything that they have going on. And you might even luck up and get a job because they are hiring. Now, in the spirit of interdisciplinary care, I offer you this quote by Maya Angelou. The thing to do, it seems to me, is to prepare yourself so you can be a rainbow in somebody else's cloud. Somebody who may not look like you, may not call God the same name you call God, if they call God at all. I may not dance your dances or speak your language, but be a blessing to somebody. That's what I think. So again, welcome, welcome, welcome. I welcome you to pause, breathe, and move as we connect through dance and movement throughout the day with our dynamic keynote and workshop presenters. As we just sit in that for a moment, we will transition now into our land acknowledgement where I hope you will take in the words of Dr. Amber Gray as she narrates the beautiful video that was created by the Native American Affinity Group for our land acknowledgement for today. Thank you.
Take a moment to look around you, to see the environment you are in. Notice the sensory details, color, light, texture, movement, sound, smell, and temperature. Now bring your attention to your body. Notice how you notice your body. Do you sense yourself through breath, weight, shape, or some other aspect of you? We invite you to bring your awareness to the ground beneath you, whatever you are standing on, sitting on, lying on, carpet, wood, earth, sand. Become aware of it. Use all your senses. See if you can sense the earth below the surface you are standing, sitting, or lying on. If it feels comfortable, begin to push your weight into the ground a bit. Push and then pause. Push and then pause. Notice the ripples of this dance between you and the earth. Notice the ripples in your body. Push and then pause. Using the expansiveness of your awareness, notice the ripples through the earth as well. Now bring your attention, which is more focused than awareness, to the earth. To this place, you, your body, you are meeting with your weight. The weight of your body in whatever shape you are in. If it feels comfortable, move your feet or move any other part of your body that's making contact with the Earth Mother. And imagine you are massaging her with your movement, showing her some love. Keep moving your feet or whatever body part you're moving, massaging, loving, and then pause. Do you feel a response? As you continue to explore the relationship between your body here and now with the Earth Mother, please take a moment to appreciate how long she has been here, how many years she has supported life, creation, movement, breath, dance. How many people have placed their feet on the place this place where you are now. How many people have placed, walked, danced their feet on the place, this place where you are now? Whose home are you standing, sitting, or lying on? Who has cried, laughed, mourned, danced, made love, slept, ran, walked, jumped, sighed, and perhaps even died here? How many lives has this piece of the Earth Mother embraced and tended to? Right here. Take a moment to feel, sense, hear all those footsteps, all those hugs, tears, memories settled somewhere deep in the earth's bones. Take a moment to bring your attention once again to the earth. This time, focus your attention on the connection between your feet and the earth. Whatever you are actually standing, sitting, or lying on, imagine your bare feet touching the earth beneath. If your feet are bare now, take a moment to sense the texture, the temperature, the weight of the ground. Then let your imagination create the sensation of your feet on the earth below this place where you are now. Temperature, texture, color, smell, weight. Let your feet feel the sensation of the earth beneath the place where you are now. Find your breath. Notice your inhale and notice your exhale. As you follow your breath, notice the gentle uprising the inhale offers. Notice the invitation to settle and rest the exhale creates. As you continue to breathe, bring more awareness to your exhale, to your body's release carbon dioxide, to our eternal exchange with the tree nation, with all time, with the universe. As you track your exhale, invite it to do what it's naturally inclined to do, to release our weight into earth as we relax, settle, rest, ground. Invite your exhale to expand your connection to ground and to ground you. Connected and grounded to Earth Mother, find your bones. Now connect your bones to the Earth's bones, to the memories of all who have gone before. Now connect your bones to the Earth's bones, to the memories of all who have gone before. Their breath, their movement, their stories. Listen. Listen for a story from someone who's been here before. Perhaps an ancestor whose life you are aware of. Perhaps someone whose name you don't know and will never know. Perhaps someone 50 or 100 or 200 or 600 or thousands of years ago. Listen for their stories. Listening with your whole body and from everything you know about the place you are and the people who have been here, perhaps long before your own ancestors. Listen. Listen for their story. Let their story move you.
Thank you, everyone, for taking a moment just to acknowledge the native land that we inhabit. At this time, we would like to welcome our keynote presenter, Dr. Lori Baudino. You can find more information about Dr. Lori in the conference app on all of our social media outlets, but I just wanted to say welcome to my dear friend, colleague, global dance movement therapy tracker. Dr. Lori is doing some amazing work in the global community, and we are so excited to have her here to share a snippet of what she has going on with us today. So we are deeply honored and grateful for your presence, Dr. Lori, and I turn it over to you.
I believe, and I wonder if you do as well, that words are powerful, thoughts are influential, and yet movement is transformative. There are so many experientials and discussions I want to share with you, but with everything, it's just like a drop of water in a river, allowing for a rippling out of insights. And just like a simple droplet, I'll be sharing what I believe is pretty simple movement, which to me means it's true and it can work for everyone. I invite you to use this time to go inwards, to recognize what you know. I hope a lot of you will feel that and celebrate that consilience of knowledge that we bring together, and become curious in any new areas that I might reveal today. And please follow along, as mentioned, listening, writing, moving, and even daydreaming. As mentioned earlier from Molly, please take a moment to find space that feels good to you. Grab something to write with, water or tea, and anything cozy that will help you during our time together. I hope also we will have time at the end for Q&A, as well as a way to connect to one another. I will give you my contact information because I love collaborating with this group, and I hope and look forward to more opportunities together. All right, so as we begin, we're going to connect today. You'll hear my reference to this concept of being human. To feel is to be a human being, accepting our emotions, sensations, and our relationships as true and valid. We will be exploring our emotions, getting into what we need, how to recognize that need, and learning about what I call body knowledge, and finally moving together and with ourselves. Next slide. Yeah. So what is body knowledge? Body knowledge is a phrase I coined to amplify our intelligent and intuitive body. Body knowledge is our understanding of our body and how it moves in relation to our internal self, the external body, and the interactions in space between us and the world. So that includes persons, places, objects, and even energy. For instance, how our body can be affected by our thoughts, our emotions, and our physical health. And alternatively, how our body and movement, what the world calls behaviors, impact others. So including people in our environment, how we're perceived. A way to secure this bond is by starting out moving horizontally. So I'm going to ask you all to take some time, use the space around you, and we're going to start by taking an expansive space from side to side in this nurturing and soothing way of just moving horizontally, whether it's your head. I started to see us starting to sway, moving our shoulders, really thinking about this horizontal space of soothing and nurturing. Yes, reaching with arms. And now we're going to be moving in that vertical plane, coming into ourself, that positive ego, our drive, our individuality, interchanging between vulnerability and strength. Allow your body to look up and down. You can move your legs, we can move our arms. Yeah, so moving into that vertical space, really coming into your own. And then lastly, as you're moving, we're going to move sagittally. So towards and away for connection and safety. On the screen, this could look like showing us something in your space. Maybe you want to bring it closer to the screen or show us some adorable freckle or facial expression you want to share with the group. Really thinking about moving forward to connect in a way for that protection and safety in this space. Our body movements can aid us to get exactly what we need. And when we listen to our knowledge, we can further support our mental health. So allowing yourself to Come back into your seat if you are standing, noticing at any time you can be nurturing back into that horizontal, moving into that vertical, and coming back right to us again. Temperature check as a way to get closer to our understanding of our body knowledge and our true needs. Some of you may have heard this reference before. Throughout our lives, we remember getting our temperature checked. And especially during COVID, we took baseline temperatures to ensure everyone was healthy. I want us to have the same baseline for our mental health. In functional medicine, baselines are taken for cortisol levels, hormones, and heart rate. This way they can be preventative measures. We don't tend to really take baselines for our mental health, especially in our children and often not in ourselves. Meaning sometimes we have a general idea of how our partner or our friend's state is, but we don't always, we tend to gloss over our own. The true temperature check for our state of being, remember, again, I'm going to keep reminding us that we're human beings, so we're supposed to feel and have sensations. So I invite you to ask yourself right now, ask those you're supporting, is your mental temperature running hot? Are you needing to relax and de-stress? Maybe this is why you decided to join this summit today. A great example is when you might be doing multiple things at one time and not realizing that you're boiling over. You need a break until it's too late and you react quite hastily. Because I've definitely never done that. Have you all ever done that? Maybe thumbs up or we can all relate, right? Maybe your also mental state is kind of cold, icy, icing others people out, the glares, the short phrases. So I want you to think about checking your mental temperature. And you can kind of write yourself a note or just kind of think for a moment, what's my mental temperature like? Hot or cold? Your body temperature is it dismissive or present? We may need to open up and be more receptive to new experiences, which again, maybe that's why you're here at the summit today. An example might be entering new spaces, recognizing your eyes are looking downwards and your posture slumped. How could this be perceived? How do you feel in this body posture? So checking, what's your body temperature like right now? Is this similar to what you're usually like or different today, this morning, depending on where you're living? And your soul temperature. Are you depleted and need to replenish your energy and vitality? Definitely why hopefully you're here for the summit with like-minded people today. The soul temperature, feeling elated and positive versus depleted and pushed down. This is simple but powerful. We have wisdom in our body, and by understanding our current state, we can heal and live more fully. I believe this awareness of the mind, body, and spirit, which is so true to the dance movement therapy field, will also prevent misconduct, reactivity, and harm, as people can witness shifts and changes in themselves and those around them before an event occurs. Take a moment and write down your mental, body, and soul or spirit temperature at this moment. Make a note again, is this familiar to you? Is it the way it always is, or is it different today? This true temperature is a way that parents and educators, doctors can identify shifts and patterns in children, partners, and in our relationships at work and in our community at large. I want to go back to being human again. It seems so obvious, but I still think we need to remind ourselves and our society, our communities at large. I'll read my quote that I wrote. Embrace your human beingness. Being human means having feelings, senses, and movement. Our bodies constantly communicate with us through our emotions, sensations, and movement patterns. When we learn to listen to our bodies, we can gain valuable insight into a physical, mental, and emotional health. Just notice that right now, all being human. When I work with children and families, I feel optimistic when they share emotions. I want to support them to notice their human gifts and strengths. I have used the reflection of thinking about other species of animals. I talk about the bear or the bat. I reflect on the bear, our bear. These animals have these senses of smell. And I believe, I haven't really talked to a bear yet, but he doesn't try and stop this ability or try to change it or ignore it the way we do with our emotions. He uses it for his survival, the bear. right? Bears do this. They acknowledge it's like a superpower. I have this sense of smell and I'm going to use it to survive. And if we think of like a bat and their sonar abilities, they don't mask them and have to push them away, but they are using them and having value to them. I advocate for us to use our senses, our movements, and our feeling states as information to embrace. So now we are going to explore that fever in this acronym. We talked about the true temperature check. We know that the fever is an adaptive response of the body to protect and fight infection. The fever is a healthy survival technique our body innately knows. So we are going to use the acronym fever to get back to what we intuitively know. And lots of us here have studied as dance movement therapists. The acronym is focus, embody, vibrate, empathize, and relate. All right, we're going to start with focus. The F is for focus. I want you to begin by noticing your spot in your room right now, in the space, whether you're sitting or standing or walking, and give yourself permission to sit the way you want. Really shift, change, the way that feels not prescribed or taught, but authentically you. I really emphasize that word, not prescribed, because in our world today, we are finally embracing a culture. And I've been maybe for a little less of a decade, this idea of mindfulness. We've been really bringing it into our education systems and our health communities. But yet I see this often as very prescribed. Sit still and breathe. But I'd love to focus on the authenticity of our humanness, that we know how to mindfully move our bodies, which means connecting to our senses, being allowed to listen to your body's innate way of moving. And I love the word in dance therapy, that rapprochement, that coming back to what we need, which ultimately may be sitting still and breathing, but because we got there on our own, because we felt that we needed to come back to ourselves, not because we were told to or prescribed to. So I'm going to be quiet for a moment, and I'm going to ask you all to tap into some of our senses. And I want you just to notice in your space just about 3 or 5 sounds that you hear in your environment. I often tell people to put them in your fingers if you have them, those of you that are on the screen right now. Listening to the sounds, senses are true and helpful to our emotional needs. When we get triggered, our senses are typically dialed up or down. It's easier, I say, to change a sensation and more accurate than to change your mood. Because again, we're supposed to feel. I love the idea that we are our own partners since the beginning of time. You've been with yourself through all the interactions, all the emotions, all the relationships. So we want to recognize you are more than your emotions. You are a vast range of emotions and senses, and you can access them and utilize them. I call them our superpowers. So think about the sounds you hear. Can you hear your breath? Any sounds in your environment? Any people in your home? And you're welcome to write those down for yourself. And now go into our sights. I want you to look at the screen in front of you and notice in the people that are joining us today, and also in the space around you, if you notice any colors or textures, shapes. And also notice as you're looking at these colors and shapes and textures, if you ever get overwhelmed by sights and triggers. These affect our emotional state and that temperature. The sounds we hear, the sights we take in. We can notice what we see, and if it's challenging, or if it's easier to sense one sense versus the other. Are you able to discern the difference between what you hear and what you see? And acknowledge the change in focus when we use one sense that the other sense dissipates. Maybe the sound lessens as you focus at the vibrant colors that we might be wearing, my shirt. Maybe you can see this little flower behind me. Now let's go even deeper to the sense of touch. This tends to be more unfamiliar for people when I support them, and if you've had that experience, but to discern, for instance, that their feeling state is not just happy, sad, angry, mad, but the emotional state is connected to the sense of touch. So feeling hot, itchy, tight, textures on your body, cold, wet, soft, silky, sticky, rough. We get to add more vocabulary to our minds. So think about all the sensations that you feel in your body right now. And again, take a moment, you can write them or just be aware of them. And bring your awareness for your preferences. We can discuss more how your senses can help us change a trigger into a state of honest insight. I do this often with clients, children, and more so parents, actually, and providers, to support them to know how to access senses to focus on what they need versus being overwhelmed by them and having big emotions, right? Shifting that temperature. And I always say that this is about empowering our choices and not distracting ourselves. So empowering, what do we want to take in our world, and what do we want to discern out? Okay. The E, actually one of my favorite parts, is to embody the dance. And here's another acronym within our fever acronym. The E is for fever, in fever is for embody. So now, using your space or in your spot, let's move into, we're going to talk about timing. You are very familiar, I believe, with timing. I believe timing is the crux of relationships. We are rushed, we're sluggish, we're pressured, on time, not on time. So many dynamics, challenges, connections occur around timing. Our dynamics are set around time. So it's important to know your own preference for timing. How do you move, that quickness or sustainment? And then we're also, as we're going to move shortly, going to talk about this and experience this feeling of weightedness. Weightedness is what creeps up in pathology and mental health. Depressed, disconnected, lifted, elevated, elated. We see this in the body, not just in our words or cognition. So let's move again using the acronym DANCE. You're welcome to stand or stay in your seat. We will choose your own preference using timing and weight, quick, slow, heavy, and light. And I want us to start each movement noticing first, the D is differentiated movement of your muscles and ligaments. So I want us to sit together and just think of one singular movement that you could do with your hands. Let's start with that. So one singular movement with your hands. Right? That's the D, differentiating your movements. All right, we start to notice, and look on the screen, see if you start to notice. And then the A in our dance is attached together, making a phrase or a pattern. So we take that single movement and it becomes a pattern. And then you'll repeat it. So we've differentiated, we've attached our pattern, and it becomes a sequence. And then the movement is repeated. We get to narrate what we see. We see our movement choice will bring the movement to consciousness, the see. We're aware of what we're doing. Maybe it looks like a ripple, but we're flowing together. As we witness, we feel, and we think our physical movement, we can then connect and truly become empathic and engaged together. And that's the E. Moving in synchrony and harmony, transforming our connection and truly being in a dance together. We might expand out to even further our body. Maybe you allow your shoulders to come into it. We can follow one another. Again, the acronym differentiate, attach, narrate, consciously, and empathic engagement. To me, every interaction has these 5 components, which is exciting because everything it becomes a dance. And then allow your body to bring it to a close. Come in. Can you tell that I love dance therapy? Everything's a dance. Yes, right? That simple acronym dance. All right. As we continue, we're going to go into the V for vibrate. Okay. Now that you know your preference for weight and time, for me right now, that was quite light and timing sustained, right? But another time, if you do your dance, you might notice that it gets a lot more weightedness, might be a little bit more quickly, right? Maybe you started noticing others on this call that were moving a little differently. So now that you know your preference for weight and time, we're going to think about this other part of our movement, which is space. Notice if you have an urge to join back to us all on the screen, or if you're comfortable to go into your own space right now. As a reminder, space is moving directly from one point to another, or taking all the space around you, like that bubble floating or that whirling dervish, taking in that space. So I want you to take a moment to feel your vibrational self. So even just as we're coming back to our seats, I'm starting to bounce. I'm starting to vibrate. I want you to see if you can bring your vibrational self, let yourself shake, let your toes start to wiggle, your fingers and your tail to your head, and allow it to get a little weird. Allow yourself to move. We were sitting, but standing, we were just moving with our hands. Allow your body to really vibrate for you, getting your heart rate up, moving yourself and listening and following your own vibration. You can close your eyes if you want, or again, look on the screen and see how other people are vibing out. Notice as you come to your body, if you need to move, if you've moved one part, have you moved all? Maybe your sits bones. You can't see my sits bones, but they are wiggling. Allow your side of your head, maybe your tongue inside your mouth. And maybe your stomach muscles, your shoulders, your jaw. And allow yourself to keep vibrating. Keep going. See if you can increase the speed. Allow yourself to increase the timing, change the timing, take up space. Or if you are sitting there and thinking about the movement, how would you draw this vibration between us all today? If you're the beginning, opening about our land, thinking about the vibrations across the land, right? Following one another, looking and imagining this vibration in you. Is it flowing? Is it solid? Is there stillness that you can shake and move and vibrate into? And then allow yourself to come to a close, placing your hand on your heart and your sacrum. How is your temperature changed or stayed the same? Just notice how you embodied, focused, you embodied, you vibrated. And the E is for empathize. As you hold your body, I want us to move into the E for empathize. Noticing in this moment a felt sense of one another. The fever has intensified and we can all relate to one another. Witnessing our internal body, external body, in the space between where our body stops, and where the room begins. Notice where your body starts and stops. And then notice where the computer is. Notice where on the other side of the computer, the other person's body is. Maybe you see the space around the person on the screen where their body begins. Take this time to find someone on the screen, if you can see anyone in front of you, to mirror and join them. I love how movement, if we were in a group, in a big room, there's a spontaneousness that allows us to connect. You'll see that if somebody's rocking, there'll be somebody else in that room rocking. If you see someone crossing their arms, there'll be someone else quite sitting that similar way. So look on that screen and see if you can find your person. Can you all find a partner? And can you make that partner see you non-verbally? Can you empathize with them? Can you show someone that you're connecting to them just by seeing if they notice that you're moving like them? Just play with it. It's a little different with a big group. Is there anyone that you could notice? Can you get a little gleam in their eye? Can you notice that, hey, I see you. I'm moving like you. I'm here. And notice if you're like, I'm not moving the same way as a dance, but I am writing. Is there someone writing like you? Notice if someone sees you. What would you need to do? Can you show them that you're here? You get to hop around the screen and look around. This is not about copycatting or mimicking or mocking, but simply just being together. Really taking time to notice each person. Maybe we'll start to move as one. Notice what happens in those feelings. Yep, we're supposed to feel. So do they come up? Do you notice that what it feels like when you notice someone's joining you, that you found them on the screen, even so far away? And if you are using one part of your body, you always have permission to switch and move a different part. Ooh. So pick one more movement, one more person or the whole group, and make sure you have joined them. You have empathized. And then coming back to yourself. This is how we will relate, that R. The R for relate now is where we get cozy one more time, where I get to still talk, but I also get to hear from all of you. Relating is one of my favorite parts. So I would love to go around the screen and kind of popcorn and have a bit more structure where we're going to share a movement and a time to reflect on something that's a takeaway for you today. And then obviously we'll have time as we're going into after the hour to get into more of the Q&A. So again, as you, if we're okay, Molly, to unmute or to kind of join each other, I'd love to be able to connect together in this fever, the focus, the embodying of the dance, the vibration, the empathizing, and now we get to relate. If it works, anyone have a movement they want to share and tell me a takeaway from today?
Unity within the group.
Wonderful. So in dance movement therapy fashion, let's try that on. Unity within the group. Thank you. Maybe I'll have Molly and and Peter too, if anyone wants to help me call out, but I think Helen's unmuted. Helen, do you have one?
Vibrating within the group.
Vibration in the group. Yeah, so notice, what does that mean to vibrate in a group? To have this resonance. Thank you, Helen.
I see Gail unmuted.
Feelings and sensations are your superpower.
Woo. Feelings and sensations are your superpower. Woo. I feel like that's what we could do before we go into a room, right? Woo. Thank you, Gail.
Pamela?
Playfulness.
Playfulness. Yeah, so notice your facial affect is matching. Maybe your emotions are matching. Maybe thinking of your memories that are matching. Playfulness. Feel like a playful animal too, right? Little kitten playing or playing instruments or music. What else are some takeaways from today?
Mental,
Lisa.
body, and soul temperature.
Mental, body, and soul temperature. Going up. I appreciate that because it feels like an acceptance of it. It's supposed to be there. All these temperatures we have.
Animals don't suppress their senses, and we don't have to either.
Animals don't suppress their senses, and we don't either. Woohoo. Imagine if our teen community understood that one, right?
Gathering together in community.
Gathering together in community. Movement.
Interconnection through movement.
Interconnection through movement. Thank you.
We are human.
We are human. Thank you. Any last ones? Rachel?
Wiggling.
Wiggling. Just the simple wiggling. It's fun to be an adult and wiggle. We don't always get to wiggle as adults. Thank you for that, Rachel. So in closing, we're still going to talk. I know we have time, and I know I'm even early, but I'm hoping we can get into a discussion. I just wanted to remind us, this slide in closing is from mindfulness to moving fully, we can access ourselves in and with. I really hope that you'll build your own toolkit. You're going to redefine what you have learned in your practices. And when in doubt, use your cues to keep moving. I'm really, really thankful that I got to be here with you today, and I'm hoping we can open this up to dialogue. My last slide does share my contact with you all, because one of my goals is always to collaborate across our mental health community and across the globe, and to see how we can bring this true temperature check this ability in our dance movement therapy community. We talk about mind, body, spirit. And I'm hoping these are some ways that you can see that it's all embodied. It's all through movement. So thank you all. And I want to, I know, again, I'll have Molly helping me. I'm going to be able to open my screen even bigger to see all of you at one time. But let me answer any questions or any thoughts you were thinking about. How does this apply to your work? I think it's a fun opportunity to get in to a dialogue.
Thank you so much, Dr. Lori. We're opening the chat now so you can type questions, gratitudes, thoughts, life, emotions, whatever you're called to. And we'll kick it off with our Q&A. Abby says, I was wondering what a baseline temperature would be described as when we balance with hot and cold.
Thank you for that. So what I love about the field of dance movement therapy is that when we look, at least for me, and please fire it back, let's get into a discussion about it. When we look at the body, it's true to the individual. So we don't have a set way of saying everyone that has this temperature means it's good or bad, or we're supposed to all move this way. But the baseline would be true to that individual. So what I want us to focus on is, what is that individual's baseline? So do they tend to run mentally more hot, more reactive? And reactive could be both ways. It could be cold. It could be like that pushback. Mental state might be like they don't run either. It's just kind of like that equilibrium place. But again, the most important piece is just to notice, what is it for you? What is it for others? When you're working with someone, when they come in the room, what's it like for them? When I talk to parents and they know my child tends to be more of a willful child, they're kind of spirited, they kind of seem fiery, they kind of run hot, even physically, their temperature runs hot. I mean, they kind of start to know this as their child. So I know sometimes when we get into semantics, some words, it becomes almost like a judgment, or we have this idea of what it feels like when we say those words. But I'm trying to kind of pull those away and just look at like, I just want you to know, what does it look like in the normal, most consistent days? And then you start to notice when the child or when yourself, there's a shift. I hope that makes it clear.
I just want to stick with baseline for a second. So I'm retired now, but I mostly work with psychiatric adults. And so when they're in crisis, you don't know their baseline. But through empathizing and movement, I think as they get better, you get closer. But can you speak to that?
Yeah, that's so important to me, because I'm thinking about how this idea of sensations or emotions being stopped, and again, coming back to that bat and that bear, that maybe that individual's baseline is that heightened state. They live in a heightened state. They live in pathology, if we were to like diagnose it. And yet they could be seeking congruence. I often see that what's happening internally to the body is being felt and expressed outwardly in the body. So when you're with psychiatric patients, individuals, they might be in that high reactivity state or in the disorganization. We see this in the body temperature. We see the rigidity, or we see the chaotic movement, right? We see the indirectness or the asynchrony, where there's this floating, but also this directness, and we see these different kind of dichotomies happening. And so I'm hoping that it would be helpful to know that that's their baseline. That's what we see typically. What happens when we all of a sudden see a shift, like you said, in empathy or in that reciprocity, or in that session, they're matching you, or taking in your baseline. Is that helpful to them? And can they discern the difference? And so I might be thinking about, I want to be cautious because we're not like, being prescriptive here, but would that be helpful for your treatment to see, can this individual get to another person's baseline? Can they know use and shift in their state,
Mhm.
but also to celebrate that their baseline might be different in their unique way and maybe not bad, unless it's a, say,
Right.
aside from harm
Hurting
to
themselves or somebody else, right? Thank you.
support.
Perfect. Thanks, Helen. So we do have some more in the chat I'm going to refer to. It says, Dr. Lori, you had mentioned working with parents and how you'd like to do this sensorily. Can you please share more about this and your work with parents and family systems?
So much to say about parents. I'll just say regarding sensory, that what I meant by that statement about using it with parents is when we're working with parents, often these words like triggered comes up, reactivity, and we're helping parents understand how to be responsive to their children, to anticipate. One of my favorite things to do is help parents find predictability in parenting. I feel like once you get predictability, then things aren't so confusing or overwhelming. You're not asking your child, why are you doing this? You're like, oh, that's why. You have a sense of it, and then you can get preventative, you can get ahead of it, you can be present with it, you can acknowledge the child. So the sensory system is really helpful for that. So we have lots of tools in our cognition and our behavioral toolkits of just saying like this too shall pass, or telling a parent to take a break and go in another room, or take a drink, things that we tell these parents to do. But again, I just add on, it's just another additional tool in their toolkit to use their senses. So to notice, for example, in the room, they walk into a room of children, into their house, and they feel triggered. And to notice, how were you triggered? Was it a visual trigger? Meaning you noticed all the chaos in the room, like it was so messy and just so chaotic looking visually. Can you tap into your senses of that visual and hone in on your child's face in that chaos of all the toys being thrown around, and notice the joy in their face? So that would be using your visuals, right? So you'd be using the superpower to say, I'm overwhelmed by the sights and I'm cueing in. I'm going to like hone in that directness, which is a movement profile, moving into directness to see where it's coming from. Or you might kind of say like counterbalance it, whereas you're overwhelmed by all the sights around you, and I'm having the parent notice the texture of their amazing, yummy sweater. It's so rare that I'm wearing a shirt like this. I'm always wrapped in some yummy sweater. And then they could be acknowledging that sensory input to their body. Or they might tap into their ears and notice, again, the chaos of the visual, so messy, but yet they hear laughter, right? And so that's just an example of the visual. And parents really use this. It feels less personal. It's not about the child doing something to them or their spouse or partner, but really the sensory experience. And I tend to get feedback that it's easier, and I know this for myself, and please tell me what you all think, but I feel like it's easier to change a sensation, right? If you feel overwhelmed by your child climbing on you and it's feeling hot and and kind of tense, you can change the sensation by taking off a layer, going outside, right? Washing your hands. You can change the sensation by looking at your child's face, by noticing something you want to look at, the beautiful flowers in the room. And so this is something we can explore with our parent community, and teachers too. Teachers love this. There's overwhelmed by 20 some, 30 some kids in the room. And it's like, how are you using your superpowers to empower you, not distract you, but really notice, oh, I can focus on this.
Yeah, thank you so much for that. Oh, so much good information. We have another question in the chat from Gina. And she said, thank you for this practice. How might you navigate this concept or practice with individuals who are resistant to embodiment or experiencing dissociation, either real or perceived, and whose primary challenge might be being in and with their own body due to feeling unsafe in their body due to trauma or nervous system dysregulation?
So powerful. Yeah, we do this really thoughtfully, right? We start with observation. We take time. We don't have an agenda to fix or change or move the individual. What I love about my experience of dance movement therapy is just how authentic it is, how intuitive it is. So I'm not telling an individual to move a certain way, but what's so exciting is when we get into the reality, what is true and accurate, it comes down to movement. So that was many different areas that you were mentioning about these individuals, lots of different parts that we'd have to kind of really look at safely. When an individual doesn't necessarily think they want to move, by bringing it to the body in terms of the visual system, what you just see, it's accurate and true. What do they see? And so maybe we're just seeing our hands and this becomes the movement. And then something else will unfold where I don't want to keep my hands like this anymore. So I put them down and now we've got two movements, right? And so it becomes accurate. So bringing their attention to what's real and true. I give an example of when we think about emotions and we label a feeling like you're feeling angry, I tend to take labels away and say, you're moving direct, quick, strong. These are dance movement therapy terms. So it's not labeling and saying we have to dance unless we're doing that acronym dance, which means individual movements that we link together or attach. I narrate for them, oh, I'm seeing our hands moving. So it brings that to consciousness and they're seeing it. And then they're seeing that we have this engagement together. We've connected. It's quite simple. I know there's so much more about that question. I'm wondering how that was, that answer, if there's anything more specific about that. So definitely let me know.
Perfect. So I'm looking in the chat. I know we have 10 juicy magical minutes left. So if anyone wants to raise their virtual hand and ask your question aloud, I will call as they come in. So take a moment if you would like to do that. You can have some dialogue. I know sometimes the chat's hard on phones and iPads, so I can give you a second. Oh, good. We got one from Karina. I hope I said your name right. How do you use this method with small kids? Do you use any graphics?
So I really have loved the experience I've had with Zoom. I'm traveling often, so I use Zoom. So yeah, I definitely have used graphics. I love bringing up pictures. Kids will bring up pictures. We draw pictures on the screen together. But also, I have to say, with children, it's, I don't know if easy is the right word, but maybe easiest because they love their experience with their bodies. They seem to know exactly how they are. But yeah, we can play games about how our mind is in terms of our temperature. We can work in that focus. The sensory superpowers is definitely something we always do. I use imagery, so moving like animals or water or connection pictures, ways to show them like maybe we're looking at something and then we might move that way. But also really, again, not prescribing it, just seeing how everything they do is that dance. And even more so helping parent and child see it in one another. And as I'm talking today, I feel like there's like a slowing down as if it's always slow. It's not always slow. Sometimes it's so fast and so strong. And it's like a lot going on at one time. But again, it's just giving an additional lens to this work. I don't say it's the only way, but it's adding on. So not just talking about it, but how we can move it. So everything I do, I know we're talking at the end here, but just wanted to really make sure to connect to you all verbally as well as in our bodies, but it becomes an integrated experience. So we're talking and we're moving, we're showing pictures, drawing. I love playing games. I love sports. We love bringing in nature. I see a picture being drawn on here of a sunflower. Is that a sunflower? It's like one of my favorite flowers. How did you know? And what does it say? I'm wondering about this sunflower. Heather drew a picture, if you all saw it, of a sunflower.
I'm a doodler, so I was doodling while you were presenting, and it is when you were saying what is true and accurate comes to movement, and off the sunflower are bumblebee and butterfly, and the sunflower is very mobile. So I was doing my visual.
Thank you for that, Heather. Yeah. So kids do that too. They doodle. I can't even make this stuff up. I hope you all are experiencing this too in your world using this incredible field of dance movement therapy, because when I do it, it just comes up. The kids just come up with these brilliant movements, and they doodle, they draw, we integrate, we talk about, what did that look like? How did they move? If they talk about a bully at school, it's not about bully and the name and what it's called and that part, and it's not to minimize that experience, but what did it look like? How did they move? What was the quality like? How would you shift it? Would you keep it the same? Would you make it different? Lots of different ways that we can explore through movement and talking.
So good. Another question in the chat from Lisa. She said, would you talk more about the time and relationship?
Thumbs up. Do you agree? Were you like, oh my gosh, yeah, all my issues are around time. Oh my God. Is that me? How did did you see that my screen made an explosion? I've never seen that before. That was really awesome timing, right? Woo, that was awesome. I didn't plan that. I have no idea how that happened. Yes. So timing, I think it came, there is integrative metronome therapy. There's different therapies now that look at timing. There's actually programs that work on rhythm and timing for kids and regulation. I wish I had invented it, because I know from the beginning of time that I've worked with children, I always looked at timing as a challenge. So when a teacher was saying a kid's on the playground and they seem to be okay, but then when we go into the classroom, it's complete disarray, and there's just this kid has no attention and they won't listen. There are all these behaviors. To me, it was not, I would look at time. I would say they went from this indulgent, quick movement outside their own time, and then they had to slow down to get inside and sit down. And the kids timing their heartbeat. When we take a pulse, their heartbeat was going like 120, 180, 160, like really high, 120. And then the teachers was like at a 40. And how do you get from 120 to 40 with no support? So we simply didn't look at it as child is bad, or how do we work on this behavior and say that they're acting out and give a whole behavioral plan, which is totally possible too. But also, how do we help that child go from really, really quick movement to even, could they go down from 120? Could they get to 90? Could they get to 60? Could they get to 40? So practicing at home, using music, using a metronome timer, practicing with the body. Timing comes up all the time. I'm a mom as well. I have a partner. I'm in family relationships, and so many issues are around timing. My dad rushing us to slow down and have to wait at the airport. How many examples do you have? Sorry, Virginia, did you have something?
No, I did not.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, so timing comes up so often. And what, again, I hope you're hearing from this through line is how it becomes less personal. It's not that the person is lazy or being too demanding or too quick, too pushy, but that the timing is just faster or slower. So you're trying to get out the door, and instead of being upset at someone, it's just that you're upset because you would like to go faster and the timing is slow. And this is dance therapy. This is like what we learn in 101. This is movement. And I love it because it's just not so personal, and it's not so judgmental and traumatizing and all these pathologies that we have, which again are there for a reason. But timing is something we can work on in the body. It's amazing to see how hard it is for people to change their time. We have a natural way of our timing. And when you get into a conflict, or when you get into that amazing relationship, timing is a part of it. We talk about that with relationships. We met at the right time, right?
So good. So good. All the things. I noticed a comment, not a question, from Jane in the chat. And she said, speaking of visuals, to assess where you are in the fever assessment, I find using a subjective scale, either of numbers or a slide bar, to be useful.
Wonderful. Yeah.
Love additional resources. Thank you.
I love that too. Yeah. And I wonder if that would, how the individual you're working with would rate themselves, and getting that baseline of like, if they're at a 5, whatever that means to you and that individual, then do you see it shift throughout your sessions over time? Is it something they use when they're at home? Yeah. Yeah.
We have time for one more. Anybody willing? Perfect. Jackie says, can you speak more about working with individuals who are experiencing disembodiment due to negative symptoms and schizophrenia and motivation?
So you all might have more expertise in schizophrenia. I've certainly worked with schizophrenia. I've worked with adults. I've had the pleasure. Something that I think is so wonderful about this work is you get to work with different individuals. I do work, however, more with children most consistently. But when I think about disembodiment, I just first and foremost go into safety. So just making sure that their environment is safe, making sure the space around them. So that body knowledge is, how is my body in this space? How is the space set up for those interactions? And then I think about disembodiment. I think about that as a theory, or this concept we talk about. And yet at the same time, if we're working on getting the individual into the here and now, how even if they're not connecting verbally to the words of their body, they are currently living in a body that is true and accurate. So I want to kind of offer an invitation to allow that, just even the subtle movement of breathing or mirroring or sitting, or even just placing hands, just like that opening, placing feet on the ground, breathing into the ground, feeling the body in space, getting up against a wall, feeling like different textures, exploring the senses. We might not need the words to explain it, because it would just be happening. So it would be quite childlike. It'd be like bringing a newborn into the world and exploring, and they just are gestural and they're moving and exploring. I want to be really cautious and safe about this, because the person who's working with that individual may know this even more so. But maybe that invitation of, can movement be as subtle as gestures, and just really exploring that own body knowledge, and maybe not worrying so much about the words of how to explain it, but just that it's actually happening. That's enough.
A beautiful way to end our Q&A. Again, thank you so much, Dr. Laurie, for just arriving at your authentic self, our embodied experientials that we all got to share in community, and just your depth of knowledge. We're so grateful. I think I can speak for the crew here. We're so grateful that you took the time to share all of your knowledge and expertise. Thank you so much.
My absolute pleasure. Please be in touch. Please keep thinking of these questions and see how this work supports yourself, and hopefully those in that community that you're supporting. And I can't thank you enough. Those of you smiling and on the screen, it's so refreshing and rewarding. It fills my heart. So thank you.